It is Nanny B's mission time, and this is week 2, and it's day 1. So we do one a day for 5 days, and our story for this week is Salvation and Sea Worms, which is a very odd title. It took me a while to where I actually read this one because of the whole sea worms in the title. But this story takes place in Fiji. I found a map, so I wanted to show you. So you have, here is the United States, California is over here, Hawaii is out here in the Pacific Ocean, and down here is Australia, where the little island that the yellow arrow is pointing to is Fiji. And so that's where our story takes place, is out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And so let's get started. So it's about, and here's some of the way it's a bunch of different islands, a couple of big ones. And so our story is about Limba. And she was asleep on her sleeping mat in the corner of the little vale. Now, the vale is a house that is a grass house in which she lived with her mother and father on one of the islands of Fiji. Her one brown arm was laid across her eyes as though trying to block out the light. The tight, dark curls seemed to dance over her sleeping head. Slowly, her big brown eyes opened as Limba felt her mother shaking her awake. Sitting up, Limba asked sleepily, "Where is father?" "You lazy girl," her mother scolded. "Did you not hear the chief of the village last night? This is the day of the big feast. Most of the men in the village have gone to catch fish for the feast. Your father is with them, and there is much work for us to do. Get up and eat your breakfast. You are the only girl in the village who is permitted to sleep this late." "But I am only 8 years old," Limba pouted. 8 years old? Many of the younger girls have been at work for a long time. Do not think because your name means princess that you are one. Limba remembered then, the night before, the chief had announced special orders for all the people in the village. Each one had been told what to do this day. Gladly they obeyed, for the people in the South Pacific Islands loved their chief. They also loved the man who had been governor of all the islands. He had been appointed by the Queen of England, and they dearly loved and respected their queen. Limba ate her breakfast of fish, which had been roasted on hot stone, sticky dalo, which is a vegetable, and some leftovers from the supper of the night before. There would be no more meals until the big feast, which they would eat with all of their neighbors. What a happy time they would have together. 2 meals a day were all that Limba had ever known. Each child in the village had been given extra work to do. Limba rolled up the sleeping mats in her veil and swept the mat which covered the floor, made of earth and dry grass, and see that everything was neat and clean. After this, she was free to play until her help was needed again. Limba was considered spoiled because she was an only child, and her parents did not make her do as much work as the other girls her age had to do. Limba picked up her doll and went outside. She thought her doll was beautiful. It was made from a thick root of a plant with a straight stick forming the arms fastened to the root. The doll, Limba had heard about other dolls made of bottles, which the girls in the capital city played with, but she was sure that they could not be nicer than her own. Limba walked down the path to where Bali lived, close to her veil. He had risen early to get his work done so that he was free to work on his little boat that he was making. The sails were made from palm fronds, palm leaves, but the boat itself was half of a coconut. "It's a nice boat, Bali," Limba said. Bali only grunted. Limba thought he sounded a great deal like the pig, which was his pet. Could you imagine having a pet pig? I know some people do. That's just crazy to me. The pigs was nearby, enjoying the nice, soft, muddy spot where the rain had the night before had left a puddle. Bali did not care about having girls around, but his good nature would not permit him to tell Limba to go home. So when Limba asked, "Please, Bali, may I watch you sail your boat?" he grunted again. And then he said, "Oh, all right, you may." Down the path the 2 children hurried. When they reached the water, they waded up to their necks. Bali gave his boat a push, and he and Limba watched it sail away in the bright sunlight. "It is such a lovely boat, Bali," Limba said. watching as with the pleased expression on his face. Girls like Limba are not bad after all, Bali decided. They watched the boat until they could no longer see it. Then Limba and Bali sat on the beach and talked of the fun that they were going to have that evening at the feast. And did you know, Bali, that my cousin Laniana is coming to the feast today? I better go home and see if she has arrived yet. She is going to stay with us for a few days. Well, I mean to keep out of her sight if I can, Bali said. I don't like the things she says to me. You should not listen to her either, Limba. She is always trying to make us become the kind of Christians she is. Her talk about being saved from sin and having salvation is just silly, I think. Yes, but I like the way she tells Bible stories. I don't have to believe them, Bali. Limba shrugged her shoulders and went off in search for another flower to put in her short, curly hair. Nothing bothered Limba for very long. She liked to dance and sing and play. Everything was wonderful to her, as long as it pleased her. As she skipped along the path, Limba stopped to watch some ladies weaving the long mats of palm leaves. Other women were pounding tree bark, making it into a cloth on which they would spread the feast. Further down the path, a few more women were painting lovely designs on some of the cloth which had already been pounded and stretched. Masi cloth, they called it. Plaited coconut leaves were made ready to hold the pig, fish, and vegetables and other foods for the feast. What a lot of work the women have to do, thought Limba. I wish I could stay a little girl always. That is, if I could have my own parents always. I don't like to work one bit. But she would not think about it now. Work was not a pleasant thinking for Limba, and she liked only pleasant things. Again, she shrugged her shoulders and danced off, waving to Bali, who was trudging along behind her. He had more work to do, and he did not like work either. So that's for today. So we're going to find out about this feast. We're going to find out about this cousin that's coming, and we're going to find out if she has to work some more, which she does not like to do, or is she going to be the princess, which is how she got her name. So that's day 1. So come back tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, and we'll have day 2 posted, and you can hear a little bit more of the story. See you then. Bye.